Welcome to 2024. Our focus in the first part of this year is going to be a series entitled Understanding Leadership. I want to spend some time looking into some biblically based principles and that we can apply to help us understand how leadership works and what it looks like, how to grow in it, and some of the pitfalls to avoid, that type of thing. I'm also going to use several book sources. I'll put those in the comments here for future reference because I will quote from them on several occasions throughout the series. As we discuss understanding leadership, really the first question that we have to ask is, what is leadership? Usually when we talk about defining something, a good way to start is to define what it is not. And so there's a couple of things that we've talked about in our class that we mentioned that leadership is not. First of all, leadership is not a position or a title. Just because someone is the boss doesn't mean that he or she is leading. There's an ancient Chinese proverb that says, "He who thinks he leads but has no followers is only taking a walk." In the Bible, there were several positional leaders that we talked about and that we can see. Folks like Saul, he had the position, but David was the real leader. Ahab, he had the position, but Jezebel, his wife, was the real leader there. Nebuchadnezzar, he had the position, but Daniel was the real leader. And even in the time of Jesus, the Pharisees had the position, but Jesus was the real leader. So it's not position or title. Leadership is also not management. Management focuses on the maintaining of systems or processes. John C. Maxwell is one of the individuals that wrote one of the books I mentioned, and I'll quote him several different times throughout the coming weeks. He says managers have the ability to maintain direction, but they can't change direction. And that's really something that only a leader can actually do. So it's not position and title. It's not management. It's not power. Leadership is not simply just power. The ability to force someone to do what you want them to do is not leadership. What do we call the followers? I use that air quotes. What do we call the followers of a person who leads by power? Well, we call them slaves. Those are not followers. There are power leaders in the Bible, very obvious ones: Pharaoh, Pilate, the Pharisees. Quite often, positional leaders really have to only depend on power in order to get things done, and not actual leadership abilities or leadership traits or leadership qualities. In fact, also, leadership is not just the smarts or a great IQ. There are certainly times that brains are needed, but the smartest person in the room isn't necessarily the person that's worth following. And when it comes to leadership, mindset always trumps skill. And so really the attitude and the understanding of leadership itself goes way beyond just simply having a brain knowledge. My dad, somebody who I think is a great leader person, consistently says, you can always borrow brains. Which is a great idea, a great plan for any person. Dr. George Eustra is somebody who I also look up to as a great leader over a course of time. He was the president of Clearwater Christian College at its height. And he said, I know a lot of people with a PhD. However, for most of them, it simply stands for phenomenally dumb. And so the idea there is not just because you have some smarts or you have book learning doesn't mean that that's the person who is the leader. Proverbs speaks heavily about wisdom as the principal thing, not knowledge, not being able to memorize things. And so understanding the difference between knowledge and wisdom is really crucial. And what is that difference? Really, for the Christian, it's Holy Spirit discernment. Think about it. Who were the smart or educated individuals at the time of Jesus? They weren't the 12 disciples that Jesus called. Granted, maybe Matthew had some education. He was a tax collector. But really, the rest were just fishermen, nobodies. The smart ones were the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin, and they were wrong. When it comes to this aspect of leadership, it's possible to be 100% right, yet 0% effective. So as we kick off our study of leadership, these kind of walk us through some things that it is not. And these are things that oftentimes people confuse with leadership. Just because somebody is smart, just because somebody has power, just because somebody has the title. These are not reasons that somebody is actually the leader. But we'll also look at the things that really do make leadership in our next video.